just hit the 1-year anniversary of my mom's passing, August 18th, a year ago. And it's evoked a lot of memories about my mom. And one of my favorite memories of my mom was her coming home from the hospital. She was a nurse for 50 years and telling us stories about patients that she worked with. She worked at a nursing home for a series of years and would come home. She worked nights and come home and tell us stories about her patients. And one time she came home, there was this guy named Guy, which I always, if you're a guy named Guy, I always thought that was an interesting name, but a guy named Guy. And he was a guy in the nursing home. He was in his 90s. He was, I don't know that they had officially developed Alzheimer's as a diagnosis yet or whatever, but he was confused. And my mom were talking one night and she walked in the room and Guy looked at her and said, "What is a nice girl like you doing in a place like this?" And she came home and she, of course, laughed, and she loved everybody she ran into, from kids in wheelchairs at a school that she worked at to elderly patients that she worked with. But she just laughed as she told me this guy asked her, what is a nice girl like you doing in a place like this? And I started thinking about that in relation to the topic that we're in. What is a nice guy? A good guy like you doing in a place like pornography? What is a good man like you doing here? How did you get where you're at? How did you end up here with my mom? I don't know where the guy thought he was. He may have thought he was in a bar. He may have thought he was in the park. Who knows? But he asked my mom, "How's a nice girl like you? How'd she get in a place like this?" And I wonder for you, as we're talking about pornography, you are a good man. You're a man who works hard in life. You're a man who has goals and aspirations and dreams for his life. You're a man who wants to achieve and wants to be the best that God made him to be. And there's this thing, though. There's this thing inside of you. And how did it get there? How did a good man like you get in a place like this? We're talking about the series Freedom from Porn, and today we're talking, how did you get here? And I was reminded that this is not just a man's event. We are specifically targeting men, but there are women all over the world who struggle with this. Nearly 50% of those who struggle, it's basically a 50-50 split, are women as well. So if you're a guy and you want to pass this on to a woman, or you're a woman and you want to lean into this and check it out, that's fine. If you're a woman and you just want to find out some guy secrets, welcome. Don't tell your guy that you found it out here. He'll come after me. But I want to welcome you to this series, Freedom from Porn. Where we have been in these last several episodes have really been amazing. But this episode, I want to help you understand your story around porn, how you got here. And the premise I want to hang this episode on is this: understanding your story around porn can lead you out of its trap. Understanding your story, how you got here, can lead you out of its trap, but you have to have the courage to excavate it. Understanding your story can lead you to freedom, but you've got to have the courage to go there. Welcome to the Next Stage Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Stout. I am really excited about where we're heading, about what we're doing in this podcast, and it is truly a gift to be able to work on this. Over the last couple episodes, we have had some guests. We had my son-in-law, Cody Holland, who's entering into his residency program in psychiatry, talking about the hardwiring of the brain and how the chemical reactions of the brain relate in this. And you might go back and listen to episode, I believe it is 16, about that. The last two episodes, my friend Mark Brendy was with us. He works with an organization called I Empathize, and I Empathize helps train first responders in recognizing victims of sex trafficking. If you did not listen to 17 and 18, please go back and listen to that. Share that with a friend. But this episode, I want to talk with you that this thing is not just out there. It's not just a cultural thing. It's not just a phenomenon that we look at that we're like, oh, out there it's so bad, or man, those sex traffickers, they're really, bad people. The reality is that pornography is something that has invaded your life. It has invaded the lives of very good men that I know. And I don't want to talk about out there. I want to talk on this episode about something much scarier. And that is the interior of your life. And you have to have courage to take a look at this. I mean, most of us men would rather wrestle a grizzly bear than take a look at our own hearts. The reality that there is something inside of us that requires us to look very personally and deeply. That's where I want to invite you to go in this series. And I'm going to lead you on a little bit of a journey that's going to help you excavate some of that internal ground. And think about it. Who are you? Look yourself in the mirror and ask the question, who am I? Who do I aspire to be? You're a man who is a good man. You want to work hard. You have good desires for your life. You want to provide and protect for the people around you. You want to develop into a man. And if you're a young man listening to this, you've got desires and dreams and goals for the future, all of which are good. You want to succeed. You want to have fulfilling relationships. You want to have an enjoyable life. Those are all good things. But the issue that we're talking about here in this series is something that can self-sabotage. It's something that you can use. You become your own worst enemy. You self-sabotage your life. Do you remember the story Fight Club? Edward Norton is the narrator of a character where we really don't find out his name, I don't believe. I don't suggest all of this because there's a couple scenes in there that didn't belong, but the premise of the movie Fight Club is that Edward Norton was fighting a psychosis, and he had a character in his mind that in his life that was made up and showed up, and it was Brad Pitt's character by the name of Tyler. And Tyler was his buddy, kind of his alter ego, and they would do things throughout the movie together. They started a fight club in the basement of this old abandoned house. And at one point in the parking lot, Tyler and Edward Norton's character get engaged in a fight. And they're fighting each other, and they had never fought each other to this point in the movie, but they're fighting each other in this parking lot, just beating each other up. And the camera pans back, and it's the viewpoint of what's really going on. It shows Edward Norton's character beating himself up, punching himself in the face and punching himself in the gut. And it shows the figment of Norton's imagination was Tyler. But he's actually beating himself up. I wonder how many times, men, we beat ourselves up. We self-sabotage the very good things that we want out of our life. And we end up being our own worst enemy. And for you, you may be listening to this series, and it may not be porn for you. It may be food. I had one man tell me, hey, listen, man, it's not porn for me, but get me within 10 feet of a jelly donut, and it's down, man. I'm a sugar addict. It may be gambling. It may be work. It may be money. It may be anger. It may be a million other things that have become something destructive and self-sabotaging in your life. See, I think it's one thing to just tell you to stop doing porn. It's just one thing to tell you to stop eating or stop gambling or stop doing whatever it is. But it's not quite that simple, is it? It's not quite that simple. It's hard to just stop. And some people have the fortitude to do that. Some people have the discipline to do that. But for others, it's just harder. And so in this episode, I want to walk us through an understanding of what's going on in your life and how a good man like you got to a place like this. Understanding your story around pornography can lead you out of porn's trap. But you have to have the courage to excavate it. The reality is a lot of us approach this problem like this. My in-laws recently had some cracks in the wall in their house, and there were cracks around a window and around a door frame and then around where the wall meets the ceiling, kind of right in that joint. And they asked me to come over and take a look at it, because I work in the building materials industry, and they're thinking, I don't know, Rob might know something. And, I know a lot about that type of stuff. So I came over and looked at it, and I was like, we need to head to the basement. They're like, what? I said, we need to go to the basement. So we walked down into their basement, and there's just these red steel posts holding up a red steel beam that's supporting the floor system in their house. And there's no cracks around it or anything like that. And I was like, that's interesting. You guys might want to call a structural engineer to take a look at this. They called a structural engineer, and they actually found out that even though there weren't cracks in the floor and things like that, there wasn't any obvious movement, that the pillars that were embedded, they were several feet deep in the ground, 3 feet deep, I believe, in the ground, that these posts were sitting on moving soil. The cracks in the wall were not caused by something on the wall. The cracks in the wall were caused by shifting soil underneath the house. Men, with this issue, we have to dig down to the root of the problem to begin to excavate what's going on underneath. And it takes courage. So I want to challenge you at a different level, probably than you ever have been there before. Physical challenges, man, we take them on, don't we? We go for it at the gym. We work out. We're tough. We love workouts. We love the physical side of life. Mental challenges, man, we're in. We're in. We'll go to work. We'll apply our energy. We'll apply our education. We'll seek counsel. We'll read. We'll do whatever we need to do. But when it comes to emotional challenges with men, most of the time, we cower in the corner like a little baby. Because this side of life, we've never been pressed on. So it takes courage. And I want to challenge you to be courageous and go with me on a journey. Don't worry, this is not going to be some weird voodoo magic thing or some hypnotic type of thing where you're going to look at me and I'm going to, do some weird thing and it's going to hypnotize you or anything like that. But I want to encourage you to take a look at how a good man like you got into this place where you are right now by looking at the foundation of your life. Because here's what's at stake. Your entire life is at stake. Your entire life's at stake. Men I know who have lost families. They've lost wives. They've been estranged from their kids. They've lost their jobs. Some have gone to jail over this issue. And you're like, how could that guy do that? How could this happen? It started early on in life and has gone to a place where the results have been something that wiped out their life. That's what's at stake, man. So I invite you to listen in. Why do I speak so passionately about this issue? Why are we even talking about this issue? Man, I've done this kind of work in my life. I've gone before you. That's what leaders do. I want to help lead you in this journey. Leaders go before. They don't just speak about some hypothetical and be like, go do that. That might be good for you. No, I have done this work. I've sat with counselors, with wise counselors, with sages in my life to begin to walk through some things. And as I've told you before on this podcast, have uncovered some addictive tendencies in my life that I have to keep in front of me every day. Alcohol, and yes, series of years struggling with pornography. And I got help. So I want to encourage you to do the same thing and simply walk on a road that I've been on. So when I talk about this, it's not just about maybe something that might help you, but I want to tell you this journey is worth it. It's worth every second that you put into it. It's worth every dollar that you might invest in this journey to get more help. And that's where we're heading. So how do we do that? How do we do that? Well, number one, I want to encourage you, if this episode and the previous episodes are something that you've grabbed onto and you're like, man, I want more. This is helpful. This is good. But how do I get more? I want to encourage you to jump into one of our Sherpa freedom groups. Freedom groups are what we've developed to help men get free from this issue. And the specific one that we're doing starting this fall is on pornography. I want you to go to Sherpa5280.com/Sherpa Freedom Groups and register for one of those today. In fact, I want you to listen to this, and let's come back and we'll talk about this issue.
Man, are you tired of the struggle you know is holding you back? And I mean at the bone and marrow level of your soul. Hey guys, this is Chris, one of the producers at the Next Stage podcast for men. Your struggle could be an addiction to pornography, or it might be something else like drinking or eating, gambling, whatever. And you've heard Rob talk a lot about this. Recovery starts when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. This struggle is taking its toll on your life and holding you back from quality relationships with your wife, your kids, and those you care about. Your struggle is also like a heavy ball and chain, weighing down your career and even your life purpose. If you're not sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're probably not ready for what I'm talking about here. But if you are seriously stinking sick and tired of being sick and tired, then I want to challenge you to join a Sherpa Freedom Group. So what's a Sherpa Freedom Group? Well, we're not just talking about white-knuckling this thing. We're talking about understanding why we have this struggle. We're talking about how to overcome it. We're talking about understanding what makes a man's passion, purpose, power, and perspective. And then we're doing the hard work together of transforming in men who are in control, not being controlled. And we're doing this in community, not in isolation. We're calling and emailing and texting and Zooming and personally meeting when possible, sending smoke signals, whatever it takes to personally connect and help each other accomplish what we all want. Wives who respect and trust us. Children who don't fear us. Employers and clients who can rely on us. We're putting together a Sherpa Freedom Group, and we want you on board. Go to Sherpa5280.com/Sherpa Freedom Groups right now and register for your spot today while they last. Again, Sherpa5280.com/Sherpa Freedom Group, or check out the show notes for the link. This will pay off not only for you, but for the people in your life that matter most. Aren't you all worth it? Men, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Are you?
So go to Sherpa5280.com/Sherpa Freedom Groups and check these groups out. I would love to help walk you through this. Man, this entire podcast is centered around 4 quadrants of your life: your passion, your purpose, your power, and your perspective. And what we're going to do is walk through an exercise helping you find out how you got here. And it's really a perspective piece. Somebody once told me once, it's really hard to solve a problem that you're in the middle of. And so if you step back and get perspective, you're able to see more clearly. And I just want to ask you very simply how you got where you're at. And I'm going to do that through asking you a series of 12 questions, pretty quick running. But I want to ask you a series of questions, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to find a picture of yourself when you were a kid. All right, here's a picture of me. If you'll be able to see it or not, it's me and my brothers with my grandfather. It's about, 1970-something. It was a good era in my life. I was a little kid. I want you to find a picture of yourself when you were in that age of innocence, when you were just a kid, 6, 8, maybe 10 years old, something like that. You were just all boy. I I want you to find a picture, and I want you to set it in front of you. I'm setting this right on the table right here in front of me at the Sherpa 5280, the Next Stage Podcast World Headquarters. I'm setting it right here in front of me. Maybe you can hear that, those of you who are in audio land. But I want you to get a journal, private, okay? Don't do this on like your company's website or something like that. Get a journal, maybe an iPad where you keep some private notes and stuff like that. And I want you to just begin to process a series of questions with me, okay? This is our plan of action for finding out how a good man like you got into a place like this. In fact, I'm going to put this tool on our website. Go to this episode, the Next Stage Podcast, on our website, and this tool is going to be there, and it's just a series of questions, okay? Question number 1. As you take a look at this picture of you when you're a kid, what adjectives would you use to describe you at this age? And again, this is not 15, 16. This is like 6, 8, 10 years old, however old you were. What adjectives would you use to describe you? Were you energetic, curious, imaginative, thoughtful, joyful, more introverted, more private, cautious, quiet, loud? Me, I've always been loud, just always been that way. Verbal, always been verbal. But what adjectives would you use to describe yourself? Question number 2. What is this guy, as you look at yourself at this age, what are his relationships like? What are his relationships like with his friends? Did you have a series of friends that you played with on the block? Kind of your little gang, your little sandlot crew? What were your family relationships like? Were your mom and dad together? Did you have brothers or sisters or cousins? Did you have friends that you hung out with? What were your family relationships like? And no judgment here, just what were they? Parents around, parents split up, dad there, dad not there, divorced, arguing. Just what was it? What was it for you? Next, on this topic of pornography, I want you to think about your first exposure. When was your first exposure to pornography? Again, this picture is of me. My little brother in this picture is probably, 2 years old, which meant I'm probably 7, something like that. Wearing an ugly pair of 1970-something pajamas. It's awesome. Oh, boy, man. When was your first exposure to pornography? I remember it was like a distant, like a second, third cousin, one of my dad's cousins. We were in this guy's workshop in his barn out in the country in Ohio. They lived in the country of Ohio. They were all farmers. And we were walking through his workshop, and I noticed on the back of one of his cabinets, on his tool cabinet, there was this pinup. And it wasn't like a Hustler magazine. There wasn't any explicit hardcore sex going on. It was more like one of those World War II, almost like pinup girls, almost like technicolored over, but definitely topless. She had her bottoms on, butt cheeks hanging out, topless, boobs, the whole thing. And I was like, hello. I remember looking at this and like, what? First, I think, topless shot I'd ever seen in my life. Whoa, we talk about the dopamine thing with Cody and how that dopamine hit. It was the most energy I have ever felt in my 7-year-old body. What about for you? For you, think back to that first time you ever saw something pornographic in nature. What was it? Question number 4. How did it make you feel? Excited? Energy rush? Woo-hoo-hoo. Curious? Like, could you feel yourself leaning in? Like, holy cow. Did it give you comfort in some way? Did it relieve pain? Did it maybe feel like you were escaping something around you, some family thing that was going on, some arguments that your parents had or something like that, and it felt like kind of a private place that you went? How did it make you feel? For me, I remember feeling very, very, very curious. Like, whoa. Next question, question number 5. How did it make you feel afterwards? So you see it. I think the intermediate step, question like 4A was, was it private enough? Did you mix in masturbation with that first exposure? But whatever happened in that first exposure, question number 5 is, how did you feel afterwards, after you saw this? So you're looking at it, whatever it was. It could have been stack of Playboys and your dad, your uncle, whatever. It could have been a movie on TV. It could have been some of those little flashed out, version early on cable channels. They had all the fuzzed out version and you're leaning in on it. Maybe it's something at a friend's house, whatever it was. How did you feel afterwards? Did you feel guilt or shame? Did you feel a desire for more? Did you want more of it? How'd you feel afterwards? For me, I've always been a real sensitive conscience kind of guy. And I knew that what I saw was, number one, pretty cool. But number two, I knew that was a boundary that was there in my conscience. And I knew I had crossed something. Number 6, did you look again? Did you go back to look again? Did you go back? Did you get the habit of going back and looking again and again? And did this become a habitual behavior? Question number 7 is, did you start to mix in masturbation with viewing this porn? Next question. Number 8. Did you get caught? Did you get caught? Did somebody walk in when you were looking, like a friend, your dad, your mom, uncle, aunt, whoever, cousin, whoever it was? Did you get caught? And if so, what were those people's reaction? What was their reaction? Was it a reaction of shame and guilt? What are you doing? How dare you look at that? Shame on you. I have those words, shame on you, hanging still as an adult like a cloud over my head. What was that person's reaction? Were you disciplined? Maybe spanked? Put in timeout? Maybe it was just the opposite. Were you given license? Maybe you were given license. Somebody was like, hey, pretty cool stuff, huh, bud? Boys will be boys. It's just the way we guys are. Man, keep going. Look at that. That's great stuff. A lot of kids are just given license and like, you know what, man, just go for it. Just it's women. It's the way God made them. It's the way your body is. Go for it, Boys will be boys. So on the one end of the spectrum, shame. On the other end of the spectrum, complete license. Number 9, and this is a tough question. Did viewing pornography eventually open the door to an abuser in your life? That's a tough one, isn't it? I cannot tell you the number of men who I've sat with and watched them process the pain that they carry over an abuser who in this tender spot, this age of innocence, this little boy, that their innocence was taken and abused and taken away from them by an abuser who entered in, who maybe manipulated them along the way and led them into this place. Or maybe it was another boy or girl in that space that took advantage of you. If that's the case, man, I'm so sorry. My empathy goes out. I've sat in places and just wept with men over that pain. The next question I've got, and it's a big question. What did you as a young boy need in that space, in that time? You got your first ever exposure to this. You were launched into a whole new world, a world that as we've said, is good. God created the human body. God created the woman as the last piece of creation. Like, I think he did his best work right there, personally. But what did you need in that space? Your first experience seeing a naked woman. The naked body evil? No. God created beauty in the physical form. Is his brain chemistry evil? Is what's going on in your brain evil as you were seeing that? No. Is this little boy curious? Well, yeah, of course he's curious. But what did he need in that moment? Think about yourself. You're this little kid and you're 7, 8, however old you were. What did you need in that moment? Look at the picture of yourself and ask yourself the question, what did I need in that moment? And just write it down. Question 11. What did you get instead? Did you get shame or guilt, like we said before? Did you get licensed to go for it, just kind of untamed, untrained, uninformed, just kind of go for it? Was it like, hey, the blind leading the blind, you're with this pack of boys that are your age, and you're like, oh, we don't know. It's just kind of stupidity, leading stupidity, kind of pooled ignorance. What did you get instead of what you needed? Last question. If there was a void there and you didn't get what you needed, what happened in the void? What happened in the void? Did you, as a little boy, isolate? Did you just kind of go figure it out on your own, like you've had to figure a lot of things out on your own growing up? Did you ask friends? Maybe you just kind of slid into the company of fools, right? The blind leading the blind, just kind of boys being boys. And just have kind of everybody, and the kid with the oldest brother had the answer because, he knew because his brother was all of, 14 years old. And he kind of informed everybody about what was going on. But what happened in that void? Did you shame yourself? But in that void, did you get angry because you had nobody to lead you? You see, I am convinced that anger that you carry deep inside as a man today is because there was a void there that wasn't filled the way it was designed to be filled. I'm convinced that the anger that you carry around this issue, the anger that drives you here, perhaps, is because there was a void there that needed to be filled, that wasn't filled, that you were left on your own to fill. I would encourage you just to kind of go back through and listen to those 12 questions again. Go on the website, Sherpa5280.com/the-next-stage, and look at this episode, number 19. Download the tool that's on there for you to go through these questions. Because, man, here's what I want to convey to you. What did that little boy need? What did he need? He needed direction, didn't he? What that boy needed was someone in his life who was strong and who was safe and who was wise to help him walk through this stuff. The same as he had somebody in his life to teach him to read and do math and hit a baseball and ride a bike. He needed somebody in his life to fill this void, to speak into this area, and to lead him into adulthood. He needed somebody who was strong to enter into the space. He needed somebody who was safe, who wouldn't harm him, who wouldn't abuse him, who wouldn't make fun of him, who would validate him, but who would be a safe person in his life. And he needed somebody who was wise enough to guide him and shape him and mold him and lead him as a boy into manhood. As I look at this picture of myself, and as you look at this picture of yourself, you needed a dad to come into that space. Somebody to father you. Again, strong and safe and wise, who would lead and guide you through these questions. Son, no, it's not evil. God made the human body. Isn't she beautiful? Yeah, this is how these things work. And this is how God designed this part of you. And what we're going to do is teach you, inform you, and get you ready for a time in your life when you will be a man and you will have a wife and you will enjoy this thing called sexuality in marriage. I wonder, men, how many of you listening to the sound of my voice or watching this on YouTube had a dad like that? How many of you had a dad like that who was strong and safe and wise? Maybe he was strong, but he was not safe. Maybe he was wise, but he wasn't strong enough to enter in. Maybe he was safe, but he wasn't strong or wise. He didn't know what to do. He didn't have the tools himself. How many men listening have had that in your life? And I'm betting it's about 0.5%. See, here's the good news in this situation. The good news in this situation. This is not one of those persecute your dad, rip him a new one type of a thing. Chances are your dad did the very best he could with what he had. I know my dad did. Did the very best he could do with what he had. The great news in this situation is that God wants to step into your life and re-father you. He wants to re-father you because he is all those things. He's strong, he's safe, he's wise. He looks at you and he says, listen, you are beautifully and wonderfully made, Psalm 139. He looks at you and says, these things that I've made, your body's a woman's body, all the way that I've created your mind and your heart and your spirit and all of this stuff, it is very good. Read the first part of Genesis for that. And he wants to reframe your mind. He wants to reform your mind. He wants to move you from immaturity to maturity. He wants to enter into that space. And you know the place you can do that? To allow God to re-father you as you look at every one of those questions, especially the one, what you needed. You can do that as you reframe your mind every day around God's best for you. And I know some of you listening to this don't consider yourself necessarily religious. I know that. I'm glad that men are leaning into this who aren't necessarily churchgoers. But whether you are a follower of God and you're like, yep, I'm in, or whether you're really struggling and you're like, I don't even know what's going on, this part is rock solid true that God cares about you. And he wants to re-father you and re-parent you and renew your mind and transform your heart into something beautiful and something good. Last question is this. How would a strong and safe and wise father speak into the questions that we ask above. Every one of them. Go back through those questions. What would a strong and safe and wise father do when you saw this first exposure? When you had feelings, what would a strong, safe, wise father do? Afterwards, what would a strong, safe, and wise father do? What would a strong, safe, and wise father do if you mixed in a habit of masturbation around this? What would a strong, safe, and wise father do if he caught you? What would he do? What would a strong, safe, and wise father do to meet your needs? You see, understanding your story around pornography can lead you out of porn's trap. But you have to have the courage to excavate that space. I'm convinced that walking through some of this stuff is a huge piece of understanding kind of the roadmap of your life. As you look back, you're like, how did I get here? Well, let's go back. Oh, that's how I got here. Oh, yeah, that happened here. Oh, that happened here. And I'll bet instead of bringing judgment on yourself, it gives you more empathy for yourself. And allows there to be a space of recovery for you. There's so much more to say about this. You could write a whole book on this, and probably will at some point. But the call to action I want to give you today is this. Go right now. Don't wait. Go to Sherpa5280.com/the-next-stage. I want you to download this tool from episode 19. Download the tool and take a look at it and spend some time with it and begin to excavate your own story. I can't do it for you. There's no book you can read. You can't reach out to somebody and say, hey, fix this for me. Excavate your own story. Grab that tool. Use it right now. I'd encourage you to go back and listen to this episode. Share it with a friend. I know many of you who are in men's groups here and there, you're digging into this. This always comes up kind of as a light issue. Grab this and go deep with this issue. Encourage each man around you to do. Number 3, sit with this and do the work. I want to encourage you to dig deep and have courage to do the work. Is it scary? Yeah. Absolutely. Digging into your heart and your soul is probably the scariest thing you've ever faced in your life. But man, I have been there. I can guarantee you there is really good stuff if you're willing to do the work, spend the time, take the energy, make the investment, and come out the other end a different person. I can tell you that's true from my life. And I'll also bet you this. The cost of kicking this one under the rug, sweeping it under the rug, kicking it down the road, cowering, walking away, it will only lead to paying more down the road. I can guarantee you. It will wreck relationships. It will embarrass kids. It will cause you embarrassment. It will ruin relationships. So I'd encourage you to jump in and go for it. And lastly, I would encourage you, as Chris said before, go to Sherpa5280.com/Sherpa Freedom Groups. Register for one of those groups today. And I want to help you get free from porn. You see, men, the idea that we're hanging this episode on is very simple. That understanding your story around porn can lead you to freedom in this issue. But you have to have the courage to go there. We end each episode with a gold nugget. And people have asked me like, oh man, that's not very, high, powerful pastor stuff. I would argue just the opposite. Because after listening to this, aren't you ready for something that you can absolutely hang your life on? That gives you hope? doesn't shame you, but gives you hope for the future. Listen to this. Psalm 103, verses 3 through 6. Written by David, a great leader, a man's man, butt kicker, fighter, warrior, king, lover, poet. I love this guy. He says this. He talks about the work of God in a person's life. He says, do not forget what God has done. He forgives sins. He heals all your diseases. He redeems your life from the pit. He crowns you with love and compassion. He satisfies your desires with good things so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. I'm going to repeat that. He forgives all your sins. Those are the things that you do to yourself. He heals all your diseases. Those are the things that happen to you. Maybe it was a result of things you've done to yourself or that happened to you outside and they have happened to you. You've been a victim of things in your life. He redeems your life from the pit. No matter how you got where you're at, he's going to bring you up out of that. And what does he do when he brings you up out of it? He doesn't slander. He doesn't beat you up. No. He crowns you with love and compassion. Next, he satisfies your desires with good things. Even, I would say, your sexual desires. Your desires which are not too strong, but instead they're too weak. He satisfies those desires that are there where we take counterfeit stuff and throw them in there to try to satisfy him. He satisfies them with good things. And what happens? Our youth is renewed like that of the eagles. I want you to take a look at this picture I ask you to grab again. Remember that age of innocence? That age of innocence, that little guy, that 7, 8-year-old kid who was running and playing and jumping and curious and maybe playing baseball in the street, riding skateboards, playing whatever you did, playing video games, fishing. I don't know what you did. But remember that sense of freedom that you had. That's what God wants to give you in your life. Because I'm not the one who wants to free you from porn. God wants to free you from porn and take you into a freedom that you never imagined possible. I want to thank you for being part of this episode. I've looked forward to for weeks of doing this episode. I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to thank you for being here. Gosh, there's such huge hope for you. I want to thank you for joining the Next Stage podcast, and it's brought to you by a whole team of people. Mike, who is actually in studio with me, who's been a friend for a long, long time. Chris, who is a producer and does all of our YouTube stuff. Andy is our editor magician who does all of her cool stuff. Marcus does all of our social media. I'm so thankful for all those people. I'm Rob Stout. I'm your host. It's a pleasure to do this with you every couple weeks. We install a new episode. The broadcast is going to be an installment next that I'm really looking forward to, and I think that you will really lean into. So it's going to be called Family Matters, and we're going to take a look at a couple more family issues that may have led you to where you're at. So join us for that. I don't want you to miss that. I would encourage you to like, subscribe, share, ring the bell on YouTube, whatever this YouTube craziness is, where you ring the bell and it reminds you of an episode coming up. Do that. Share this. Let's spread the reach of this podcast around the world to men and women who need this. So I would encourage you. We will see you the next time that we're on. In the meantime, if you want to email me, please send me an email. I'd love to hear back from you, your thoughts at the next stage at Sherpa5280.com. Until then, go be awesome in your world and be a man of impact. And as we say around here, summit life's climb. We'll see you next time.